Good morning, hello, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to the first session today. And the first mental disorder that I will tackle today is ADHD. By ADHD, I mean attention deficit hyperactive disorder. It is one of the very common mental disorders in children. That is why I decided to choose it today and start with it as the first disorder that we are handling on our channel. So come along, let us learn. So ADHD has become very predominant. They're saying 1 in every 36 children is nowadays diagnosed with ADHD. The problem is even the cause is not known. There are many researches going on right now trying to figure out what is causing ADHD. Some people call it autism, but I would want to handle autism on a different episode itself alone, specifically autism. So today I will just focus on ADHD itself. So some of the causes of ADHD are, according to the researchers, though no confirmation yet, is genetics. And some of the genes that we carry, and as you will realize even as clinicians that are treating children that have ADHD, is that most probably in the family there is a relative that also either once suffered ADHD or someone who has not yet been diagnosed but has symptoms that are actually just concurrent to what you're seeing in that child. So genetics is known to play a very major part in the causes, though no one really understands how, but it is one of the causes. There are other causes, general causes like premature birth, that is giving birth to a child before their time comes, that is before the expected 40 weeks of birth, of carrying a child to term. ADHD has been associated with premature children, most of the children that come before their time, and that is why you will realize even if you're going for like an elective cesarean section, your doctor will advise you, let us try push it a bit more, let us reach at least at 37, 38 weeks. Let's not try and get the baby before so much time, far from 40 weeks of term, because prematurity has very many complications, and ADHD has been known to be one of them. Another cause that is general is effects of toxin in a pregnancy. That is when a mother either smokes or takes alcohol when they are pregnant. It's also been known to cause ADHD. Though the explanation is not clear how, but then toxins during pregnancy are affecting our children. So as a pregnant woman, avoid this, avoid smoking, avoid taking alcohol. There's time for that. If you're in that, if it is a must that you do that, then wait for the term and let the baby come and you can go back to what you used to do. But then during pregnancy, avoid toxin intake. Let us not take alcohol, let us not do smoking, marijuana, all this. It is really affecting the outcome of how our children are. Another cause is low birth weight. Low birth weight is a general cause of ADHD, though not really the explanation not very clear, but you see premature children and low birth weight, they are connected. So even alcoholism itself in pregnancy causes low birth weight. So all these things are intertwined in causing, in a way to explain what is causing ADHD. And then there is one that is very common in most women, and one that we don't even realize that the effects are so great of it, and that is extreme stress during pregnancy. Most women, especially if the pregnancy was unexpected, or maybe you're with you don't have support, the social support of your partner or people around you, friends, even financial strain. There are so many things that are causing us to be stressed out. And so ADHD has been associated with women that were really under extreme stress during their pregnancies. So this is an outline of some of the causes of ADHD, and more research is being done to figure out what exactly is causing diagnosing ADHD because it's become very common, very predominant. It's actually like in our facility, in a day, probably you will not fail to see a child that has symptoms that tend to show you that this child could actually be suffering from ADHD. So what are these symptoms? The symptoms of ADHD are they are quite a number, but the most common that you're able to see by just first view of the child is, the first one is inattention. Yes, inattention. That is a child that is not attentive, a child that is everywhere, a child that is not able to focus, a child that if you give a certain task to do, they will not complete it. They will either do something out of what you've not told them to do, or they will just start it. Like maybe you give a child something to draw on a paper, they will just maybe hold the pencil and start on something like 1 second, and they're out of there. They don't focus on one thing. They're easily distracted. They don't want to sit at one place. They just want to do other things. This takes us to the second symptom, which is hyperactivity and impulsivity. Hyperactivity, I mean a child that behaves in a manner that is not befitting the environment that they are in. Because if we are in a field, we are expected as if children are in a field, they are expected to play around, run and all that. But then imagine a setup where we're in a church, and it's maybe in a Sunday school, or we are all in a church and everyone is seated silently. An hyperactive child will either be shouting or running around, jumping on the window panes, doing things that are not according to the setup that they are in at the moment. And you will find out that their parents are always saying, don't do that, stop doing this, you come here. They are always instructing their children. The parents never keep quiet. And that is why most parents with children that have ADHD are parents that are also very stressed out. They are parents who need a lot of support. They are parents who even need to just be given time out, like for someone to help them with their child, that they will get to have time on their own, because they are constantly instructing their child, and it's not an easy task to do. So, and then the third symptom, as we said, impulsivity. Impulsivity is hastiness. It can be impulsive aggression, like a child who's just okay right now, and then out of nowhere they just act out. They either start shouting, hitting on the wall, jumping up and down, doing something impulsive, something that was not expected. These are some of the symptoms of ADHD. The reason why I want us to keep on reading on together, that I will give you the right guidance without giving any wrong information. So the effect of ADHD is that it affects the academic of most children. This comes about because there's no attention. You remember, no attention. There is hyperactivity, so the child is not able to focus. Even in school, they are not able to do what the teacher is saying. They can't concentrate. They can't sit at one place. So it affects their academics. These are children who they don't even get what the teacher has taught. They're not able to understand what the teacher is saying, because by the time a teacher is trying to say something, this child is already in another thing. Or if the teacher is saying this child is thinking of this, because their mind is not settled. Their mind is in this task for 1 second, this other task for the other second. And this goes along and affects, even in adulthood, the professionalism of such people that have ADHD. You will see that these are people who never carry a task to completion. These are the people that we have, you give them something to work on for some time, but then they don't finish. They just do, and it's kind of, you would think that they are bored, or it's not interesting, or they're just tired, or they don't like their work, but it's something that is beyond their control, because they are not well. They have ADHD. So it being very common of late, it's something that we need as parents, as friends of parents, as relatives, to be on the lookout. Let us, if you see something that you've noted, this child is always, maybe the child is never settled, or the child is always mumbling words that are not okay, like they're shouting, or they are talking, they are excessively talking things you cannot understand, or they are jumping up and down when it's not time to do that, then it is something you need to tell the parent of that child. Or if you are the parent, take the child to a pediatrician, let the child be assessed, let it be discovered, because the thing about ADHD, the earlier it is diagnosed, the better the outcome. That is, the better the outcome of treating it. In that, because it is mostly behavioral treatment, you know, when someone is young, the molding is easier. So a younger child, the easier it is to mold their behavior. So even with ADHD, the younger the individual, the easier it is to make them go to the right kind of behavior. So let us try and note these things early enough. It is not, they say it's not easy to diagnose ADHD at a very, very tender age, but as a mother or as a parent, you can actually pick a few things. You could see a child, a small child, maybe a 1-year-old, who always eats on the seat when they are seated. They are never calm, they are always everywhere. Or a child who never wants to play with others, or they are just everywhere, or they are biting their friends, things that you would think maybe this child is kiherehere, as they say it in Kiswahili, but in the real truth of it is that this child has a problem. So let us be keen, let us try and discover it earlier, that we are able to help these children. The 3 types of ADHD, as it is, they are according to the symptoms. So there's predominantly inattention presentation, the inattentive presentation, then the predominantly hyperactive or impulsive presentation, and then there's a combined presentation. So as I had already mentioned earlier, the predominantly inattentive inattentive presentation is the one a child never focuses on a task. Then the second one, the predominantly hyperactive impulsive presentation, is the one that a child is ST, they are everywhere. They don't settle down. They are either jumping, they are just hyperactive, which is not normal according to the age set or their age group. And then the combined presentation now combines these 2 presentations, and the child is inattentive and is also still very hyperactive and impulsive. So those are the 3 types of ADHD. And the treatment of ADHD is actually a combined therapy, whereby we do the behavioral modification, and then there is also the medicine part. And the treatment is depending on how old the child is. The preschooling and the younger children, the treatment is, the first line treatment is mostly behavioral modification, and the behavioral modification is mostly to the parent. The parents are taught how to handle these children. They are taught what to do when there's a meltdown, or how to understand what their child is going through when there's a meltdown. So it mostly focuses on the parent-child relationship. It's what we call PCIT, the parent-child interaction therapy. They are taught on how to interact with these children, because an ADHD child is a child that wants you to understand that during this time I have a meltdown. I don't want you to shout at me. I don't want you to maybe be rude or something. So it is a therapy whereby we focus on teaching the parents how to interact, and even the caregivers and the teachers in school, the school intervention, where the teachers are taught how to handle these children, how to give them short time task, not to give them a very time consuming task, that they are able to concentrate on one thing, but that takes a very short time, and then they are able to complete it. That way their mind is taught that we can actually complete a task, but it is a task that is short duration task. So that is part of the treatment, the behavioral modification therapy. And then the medication, now this is a bit deep. So when a child is sick and you have noted that there are these things that are not okay with my child, take the child to the pediatrician, let the pediatrician assess. and see, does this child just need the first line of behavior modification therapy, whereby you will be sent to a therapist and the parents will be taught how to interact with the child, the school, the teachers will be taught how to do the same? Or does this child now need us to go to the medication? And there are different types of medication, and amphetamines are the first line medication for these children. But I wouldn't want to discuss these treatments in this episode, because now when it comes to treatment, it's not something that you can buy over the counter. It is something that you need to go to the doctor, let it be prescribed, and then give your child. So I hope I've given you an overview of what ADHD is. I will tackle autism on its own on the next episode, so that I can cover it in broad aspect, because most people, that is what they know as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. They call it autism, yet it's a different, it's okay, it's almost the same, but there's something different about it too. And the last thing about management is special education. If the child cannot sit up in a normal education or the normal curriculum education schools, there are special schools that are able to take up these children, and the child can be assisted and learn. These children with ADHD are not supposed to be left indoors and locked, because that is what most people do. They say that this child will disturb me, I cannot go with the child anywhere. The child will be everywhere, I cannot do anything with the child with me. It is so wrong. Let us be advocate of helping the children that have been locked in their homes. Talk to the child protection officers in your areas. Let the children be assisted, because there is help for these children. And the only help can come when the problem has been diagnosed and we know what it is, then the right treatment is given. And let us support parents with children that have ADHD. There are parents that are going through so much. It's not easy shouting every time, stop, come, do this, do that. It's not an easy task. If you're able to babysit once in a while, help the parent out, let the parent at least have some time of their own. Let us do that to the relatives that we have, or our friends that have children with ADHD. Otherwise, I pray that God, who is the healer, he will see that we are doing all these things as medics, and above all else, he will also bring forth his healing, because he's the true healer. Thank you so much. I hope you've learned from today. Bye bye.